I don't really know how to start this. Damnation is finished, and I thought that would feel a bit cleaner to say, but it doesn't. It feels like grief. Like I've just let go of something that held every single part of me, my anger, my shame, my silence. I made this work from a place I don't usually talk about, a place that is messy and angry and deeply, deeply personal, and now it's out. It's on walls, it's on people's phones, it's in front of everyone, and they see the sludge and the figures and the drama, and I do wonder if they at all see me. This isn't a formal video. I'm not here to explain every symbol or justify every brushstroke. This is more of a little diary entry, something I feel I need to say for myself about what this project meant to me, how it changed me, and why letting it go feels like ripping something out of my chest. So if you're here, thank you. This is the part of Damnation no one got to see, the part that was just mine. I didn't set out to make a project like Damnation. At first I just needed somewhere to put everything I couldn't say, the kind of feelings that rot if you keep them inside too long. I was thinking a lot about sin, not in like a religious sense, but in how people decide what's unforgivable. What makes someone corrupt, what makes someone damned, and what happens when those labels get put on you before you even understand them. That's where all of this started, not with aesthetics, not with a grand concept, just a need to get it all out pretty much. The Baroque and dark romanticist influences, they did come later, when I realised I didn't want the work to be subtle, to be very specific. I wanted drama, I wanted to confront, and I wanted it to feel theatrical and sick and kind of beautiful all at once. Those styles felt right because they exaggerate everything. They live in the extremes of light and shadow, good and evil, beauty and grotesque. And that's what I was feeling. Extreme. Every piece in Damnation comes from that, from a place that was messy and just too much to deal with. So no, this wasn't about crafting a neat narrative like most artworks you see. It was about surviving, and about making sense of what has happened to me personally and turning it into something I could look at and maybe even let others see. I wish I could say the process of making Damnation was healing, that it felt like a purge or a breakthrough or something poetic like that, but honestly, it felt like bleeding out. It didn't come out clean, it came out in clumps. Some days I couldn't even open the Procreate file because it meant staring directly at things I'd buried for years. Other days I was frantic, hyper-focused, almost like in a manic state, like I had to get it all out before I changed my mind and locked it away again. It wasn't just art making to me, it was, as I mentioned, confrontation. And confrontation is exhausting. I get a lot of questions on why I work digitally and not as a natural oil painter. The answer isn't necessarily simple, but I will try my best to answer it. I work digitally because it gave me space to obsess in private. To put it in a very simple way, I could zoom into areas until it looked like nothing, just pixels and colours and weird shadows, and then I'd zoom out and there I'd be right in the middle of the image, not literally, but in a metaphorical sense. Now the reason I get asked that is because my work doesn't look digital. I don't want it to look digital, I don't want it to look smooth or feel sterile or flat. I love texture, and I wanted the surface to feel like it could bruise or break very easily, so I printed on wood. I thought in my head, obviously, that this would ground it, make it feel more real, but part of me also wonders if that was me trying to trick people into taking it more seriously. Like, look, it's not just a screen thing, it's tactile, it matters. There's this pressure to make things look traditional if you want them to be seen as fine art. But Damnation was never about playing by those rules, it was always about breaking something open. I fought with this project, not just artistically, but also emotionally. There were pieces that made me cry while I made them. There were nights I left my studio feeling like I just relived something. People look at the work and they see the sludge and the dramatic lighting and Baroque compositions, but they don't see the memories underneath. They don't see the moments I didn't tell anyone about because I didn't even have the language for them when they happened. My sketchbook became a very messy, weird looking graveyard of images that I couldn't bring myself to finish. Some were too raw, others felt like they betrayed the honesty of what I was trying to say. There's this weird guilt in making art out of pain, like you're exploiting yourself, but the truth is I didn't do this to be brave or admirable. I did this because I had no other way to hold it. And yeah, maybe it was obsessive, maybe I went too far sometimes, sat for too long with things I should have let go, but when I look at this project I don't see clean narratives, I see, again, survival. I see the version of me that needed this. The one who stayed silent, the one who finally picked up the brush and said, fine, if you won't listen to yourself, then I'll force you to look. This part of the process, it wasn't about making something beautiful, it was about making something honest. Even if that honesty made people uncomfortable, even if it made me uncomfortable, especially then. I'm not going to go into every single piece because this would become a feature-length film, not a diary. But there are 3 artworks I think I have to speak about because they're not just a part of Damnation, they are Damnation. And those pieces are the Sin Eater, Kettle, and Dinner for the Dog. The Sin Eater was the opening. It was the first piece I ever made, and it was very hard to paint. Really hard, because it wasn't a metaphor, it was a confession. It's about what happens when you stop being a person and start becoming the vessel, the one who absorbs everything, the guilt, the shame, the rot, the blame, even when none of it is yours. She's elegant, regal even, but she's tearing herself apart just to swallow what everyone else refused to hold. The sludge isn't just on her, it's in her, bursting out or maybe even into her throat, staining her teeth, sliding down her chest like bile. I painted her hand wrapped around the sludge like it was delicacy. Because sometimes when you've been made to eat your own pain for long enough, you start to believe you chose it. You start to think, maybe this is just who I am now. It's grotesque, but it's also delicate. Her dress is still beautiful, her skin's still soft, and that contrast, that unbearable tension, is what Damnation is all about. This one didn't feel like making art. It felt like giving a part of myself away, like exercising something, and when I finished it, I did cry. Not out of relief, but because it was done, and that meant I couldn't hide behind it anymore. Next is Cattle. Cattle, in my opinion, is one of the most uncomfortable pieces I've ever made, not because of how it necessarily looks, but because of what it says. It's about dehumanization, about being treated like meat, about the stripping away of identity, agency, even language until you're just flesh. Just something to be handled, used and discarded. I remember sketching it for the first time and genuinely asking myself if I'd gone too far. But the truth is, Cattle isn't an exaggeration. It's how so many of us have felt, especially women, under a world that commodifies our bodies and then punishes us for bleeding. In this piece, I used the chiaroscuro not just to dramatise, but to isolate, to spotlight this brutal moment in a way that's uncomfortably intimate. It's not metaphorical, it's direct and it's angry, and it is a refusal to be palatable. I painted this because I know what it's like to become invisible in plain sight, and honestly, I still don't know if people see her, really see her, but maybe that's the point. Maybe Cattle isn't about her, maybe it's about the ones who turned away. And finally, Dinner for the Dog. This one came from humiliation, that deep, sharp kind that doesn't even let you feel angry at first, just really small. It was about being served up as a joke, as a thing, as the meal and the entertainment. There's this elegance, rich reds, flickering candlelight, the quiet tilt of her head, but it's completely rotten underneath. She's not dining, she's being dined on. The men around her, they're caricatures of entitlement, whispering, smirking, practically salivating over her defeat. And what's in front of her isn't food, it's black sludge. It's her name being dragged through the dirt, literally. It's the word bitch carved into a silver platter like a joke with a flourish. And she just sits there, dignified and posed. That was intentional. I wanted her to feel like every time you've had to smile through being violated, every time you've had to swallow your rage because someone laughed louder than you could scream. This painting is a trap. It's pretty, it's warm, it's classically composed. And then it hits you. That's how real life works too, doesn't it? cruelty dressed up in civility. Abuse made aesthetic. So yeah, those are just 3. There are so many more, I'm talking like 21 other pieces. But if I had to show you what Damnation really was and what it cost me, I'd show you these. And maybe now you'll understand why letting it go doesn't feel like relief, it feels like grief. Putting Damnation on display felt like walking into a room naked. Not literally, obviously, but spiritually and emotionally, absolutely. These weren't just paintings, they were all the things I never said out loud. My shame, grief, silent rage. Painted big and hung on walls for strangers to look at. And it is strange, because as the artist you're expected to perform calm, to stand there with a glass of wine and explain your work in a neat little paragraph. But how do you explain a piece like The Sin Eater in a sentence? Oh yeah, that one's about swallowing the guilt of your own abuse until it poisons you from the inside out. What are you meant to say when someone just smiles and tells you it's really beautiful? Because it is beautiful, but it's also disgusting. And that duality, that tension, is the whole point. I made this work to be seductive and uncomfortable. I wanted the viewer to lean in, then feel the slap. That's what the aesthetic is for, the rich lighting, the velvet shadows, the lush baroque drama. It's bait. You're drawn to it because it looks like a painting you've seen in a gallery, but then you realise something's off. The women aren't soft, they're screaming with their eyes, the sludge is choking them. There's something feral under the refinement, and for some people that worked. I saw it in their faces, the shift, the moment they realised they weren't just looking at something dark, they were looking at something personal, something real. A few people cried. One woman came up to me and said, I felt like I'd walked into something sacred, like I shouldn't have been there, but I couldn't leave. That stuck with me because it wasn't about understanding the symbolism or knowing the art references, it was about feeling the work. Others, not so much. Some walked past after 10 seconds, some asked if it was all AI. One person said, you should really consider just painting instead. That one almost made me laugh. Because if you think the medium makes the message less real, you weren't listening, you were just skimming the surface. I don't blame them though, not really. The show was intense, and Damnation doesn't meet you halfway. It doesn't offer resolution or redemption, it just stands there like the girl in Cattle and stares at you until you flinch. I thought curating it would give me some sense of control, like maybe if I chose the lighting, arranged the pieces just right, I'd protect myself from how raw it all was, but it didn't. Seeing the work up on those walls didn't feel triumphant, it felt exposed. Like I'd taken something ugly and sacred and irreversible and handed it over. I watched people photograph it, zoom in, post it, some got it, some just saw a vibe, and that's the weird thing about making art, it's personal, you can't control what people take from it. Some see the beauty and miss the rot, some see the rot and think it's just edge for the sake of it. But then someone lingers, someone cries, someone says, I've never seen something that made me feel so called out, and you remember why you did it. Not for the applause or the validation, but for that, for the connection, for the moment where the work stops being yours and starts being someone else's mirror. That's what Damnation was always meant to be, a reflection no one wants to look at, but can't forget once they do. Letting go of Damnation hasn't been easy. I thought it would feel like closure, like I could dust my hands off and say, there, that's done, but it didn't. It felt like tearing something out of my chest and leaving it behind for everyone to pick apart. I didn't expect the grief, but it's there. I think it's because this project wasn't about just making art, it was about surviving something, about finally saying all the things I'd kept locked in the dark, and now that it's done, I don't know who I am without it. Damnation gave me a place to put everything that haunted me. It gave me a language when I didn't have words. I could bury metaphors into oil and digital texture. I could disguise rage as elegance, and now I'm meant to just move on. But move on to what? A new project? A new concept? Something clean? Something softer? The truth is, I really don't know how to follow something that meant this much. I don't know how to start again when this one nearly broke me open. Well, it did break me open. Letting go means saying goodbye to a version of myself, the version who made this from a place of silence and hurt and fury, and there's a part of me that's scared to leave her behind. Because even though she was drowning, she fought. She made these works with blood under her nails, and she stood in the dark and painted with her teeth clenched. She's in every corner of this project, and letting go feels like losing her. But maybe that's what growth is. Not closure or neat endings. Just leaving the door open, saying, thank you for getting me through that, and walking towards something else. Something that doesn't require quite so much bleeding. And yet, Damnation will always be mine. Not just the finished pieces, but the mess behind them. The layers I painted over, the files I couldn't open for weeks, the nights I sat in front of my screen and cried, not because I was sad, but because I finally felt seen. I don't know what comes next. I don't know how I'll top this, or even if I want to. But I do know that I'm changed, that I'm not scared to be ugly anymore, that I'm not scared to be too much, that this project didn't just hold my rage, it taught me how to own it. And maybe, just maybe, it gave me the courage to start again, not as a blank state, but as someone who survived their own art. I started this video by saying I didn't know how to begin, and now I'm not sure how to end either, because Damnation was never meant to be wrapped up in a bow, it was just raw and open-ended and messy. Just like the feelings that made it, but I do know this. If you've watched this far, thank you. Thank you for seeing more than just the sludge and the drama. Thank you for listening when I wasn't speaking, for standing in front of the work and letting it breathe on you, for sitting with the discomfort instead of walking away. And thank you to the people who gave me space to make this. My tutors, my friends, the ones who supported me even when the work got dark. Thank you for not asking me to tone it down, for letting me make something that screamed, and for anyone who's ever felt like too much, too angry, too loud, too haunted. This project was for you. This video is for you. Because Damnation isn't just a collection of artworks, it's a record of survival, of grief, of transformation, of what it means to take the ugliest parts of yourself and turn them into something that stares back. So yeah, this is the part that no one got to see, but now you have. And that means it wasn't just mine anymore, it was ours.